Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go.
So I've actually never told this story because it sounds crazy, it sounds made up, but here we go. So I have this very, very good friend of mine. We're still friends till this day. And when we were young teenagers, she was experiencing a lot of paranormal activity, especially in the place that she was living at the time, like footsteps, like whispering of voices or whatever. And sometimes things would fall, like that kind of stuff. So one day I'm over, we're hanging out, just like taking pictures, doing what young girls do. And like out of nowhere, I kind of felt like this very like dreadful feeling, but I ignored it because like nothing was happening. Like we're having a good time. So we continue to take pictures and we snap a picture. And when we look at the picture, we both look demonic. Like my face was white and like my mouth was like drawn down, like ghost face. Like that's what I look like. And she had like red pupils and like stitching on her lip. Oh my God. I'm freaking out just thinking about it. And this was like on our little like flip phones. And when I tell you, we were so scared that we just like deleted the photo and acted like nothing happened. And her and I have not spoken about it since. And this is the first time I'm mentioning it in like 15 years. I promise you, if it didn't personally happen to me, I wouldn't believe it. But it was so freaking scary.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Okay, so my daughter has been telling me to get on this trend because we've experienced so much in our lives. And I mean, up until yesterday, we've had things going on. But I grew up in a really haunted house, and thankfully nothing like bothered me to where it was like, okay, we need to go. But things were just creepy. My mom had an initial reaction of everything like typical black mother. If it's not fucking with you, don't fuck with it. So that's how we looked at it. Now there was an entity that we didn't know what it was, who it was, where it came from, but it was never inside of my house. It was always outside of my house. And you could see it in the windows basically, or if you were looking in a mirror and there was a window there, you would be able to see him. The best way to describe him is what like most people would describe the Hat Man as, but he was not the Hat Man. We couldn't even see his face. So we would just be like, oh, the shadow dude, the shadow guy, whatever. So one night I'm sleeping and knocked out with my daughter. She's like 3 weeks old. And I see the lights come on. Lights come on in my room and I'm thinking maybe it's just my mom looking for something. So I don't wake up. But something kept like nagging me like, bitch, wake up. So I woke up. And I was like, okay. So I checked on my baby. She was in my arms and I'm like, okay, she's straight. Then I looked over like towards the walkway of my door when my mom's door was open and I'm like, okay, she's good. So then I look over to my right and then I see it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Um, my daughter had a toddler bed already, even though she was an infant. My sister went crazy and bought her a toddler bed. On her bed, there was a man sitting on her bed, rocking back and forth, and he was like holding his head. And then he put his hand down, and it was bloody. I'm thinking I'm dreaming, so I'm like tapping myself like, oh, girl, wake up. I'm very much awake. So then I started screaming for my mom. And I'm like, Mom! But that's how I thought it was coming out. It was more so as a whisper. So she's thinking that I don't want to wake up the baby. So she comes in and she's like, yes, babe. And then she looks over and she goes, oh, okay. What, mommy? Like, what? So I'm like, okay, you see it too. And she's like, yes, give me the baby. And I'm like, mommy, I can't move. And she's like, give me the baby. And she proceeds to give me like a talking to. She's like, you are a grown woman. You are a mom. Get up and give me that damn baby. And I'm like, This is not the time, girl. This is not the time. So I'm like, I can't move. And I start crying. So she was like, mm-mm. And she runs in the room. She runs in the room and takes my daughter from me and then runs out. She just left her child. She took my child, but left her child. So then I'm really crying because in my room, I had mirrored closets and I could see what was in the back of me, which was a window, and the shadow man was there. So I'm like, okay, this Winston left me with not one ghost, but two ghosts. Are you kidding me right now? So I am like shaking and paralyzed because I'm so scared. I've never been that scared in my life. And so I think she came to like, oh shit, my daughter's still there, basically. So she comes back in the room and she's like, I'm so sorry. And she cuts on the light. Everything goes away. And she was like, hold on. And I was like, okay. So then I got up, ran in her room, and she walks back and is like, that was weird. Everything disappeared. The room was dark. And I was like, I thought the lights were on. She was like, no, I just cut them on. So I'm like, oh my God. Come to find out, we did some history on our house. And basically, because we live by a prison, a lot of prisoners would escape and run through the path of our house before it was built. Well, that person that was sitting on my daughter's bed, he was one of the people that escaped, and one of the officers shot him. And that officer is the shadow man, the creepy shadow man that constantly, it's almost like my mom said when we first moved in, she's like, it seems like he's like patrolling the house. And I was like, right? Well, that's exactly what he's doing. And he's still there, very much there. So many things have went down in that house, but yeah, that was the first like real major thing that I actually physically saw, because I would always say, like when I was younger in the house, I'm all right with y'all living here, but please don't show me shit. But yeah, my baby girl, she bought that on. So basically that's like her story. It's her fault.